Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin was born on May 26, 1799 in Moscow, Russia, and died on January 29, 1837 in St. Petersburg. He was a Russian poet, novelist, dramatist, and short story writer. He has often been considered his country's greatest poet and the founder of modern Russian literature. Pushkin's father came of an old boyar family. His mother was a granddaughter of Abraham Hannibal. Pushkin's parents adopted French culture, and he and his brothers and sisters learned to talk and to read in French. He read widely in his father's library and gained stimulus from the literary guests who came to the house. In 1811, Pushkin entered the newly founded Imperial Lyceum at Tarskoye Selo. In 1817, Pushkin accepted a post in the Foreign Office at St. Petersburg, where he was elected to Arsamas, an exclusive literary circle founded by his uncle's friends. In his political verses and epigrams, he made himself the spokesman for the ideas and aspirations of those who were to take part in the Decembrist Rising of 1825, the unsuccessful culmination of Russian Revolutionary. Pushkin was banished from St. Petersburg in May 1820 to a remote southern province. In 1831, Pushkin married Natalia Nikolaevna Goncharova and settled in St. Petersburg. Once more, he took up government service and was commissioned to write a history of Peter the Great. 3 years later, he received the rank of Kammerjunker. That meant he was a gentleman of the emperor's bedchamber.
His novel in verse, Eugene on Eugene, was the first Russian work to take contemporary society as its subject and point the way to the Russian realistic novel of the mid-19th century. Even during his lifetime, Pushkin's importance as a great national poet had become recognized by Nikolai Vasilievich. His work are viewed both as communicative, most totally Russian national awareness, and as rising above national obstruction. Pushkin had become an important part of the literary world of the Russian people. He also influenced on other aspects of Russian culture, most notable in opera. Pushkin wrote classic odes, romantic poems, love and political verse, novels in verse, historical drama, realistic prose, novellas, short story, fairy tales, and travel journals. He criticized the suffering of a humble individual of low rank, the confrontation between an exceptional character and society, the painful choice between duty and personal happiness, a loner rebellion against the system.
Pushkin was a Russian nobleman. Besides novels, Pushkin also wrote fairy tales in verse. Pushkin took great pride in his African ancestry, even though he was picked on as a child because of his different looks. Pushkin portrayed the Tsar in some of his poems as a cruel man. Pushkin was a member of the Decembrists. Pushkin contributed to the Decembrist movement and earned the title of Father of Russian Literature. Nadezhda Durova published her important memoir, The Cavalry Maiden, as a female soldier, while disguised as a man. In the Napoleonic Wars was helped by Pushkin, who encouraged her to publish her journal. Pushkin fought 29 duels during his lifetime. Pushkin died 2 days after getting shot in a duel he had with his wife's brother-in-law.
Eugene Onegin and Boris Godunov. Due to an intercepted letter, Pushkin was exiled to Mikhailovich Sokev, his mother's estate, where he would spend the years 1824 through 1826. There he wrote the provincial chapters of Eugene Onegin and his historical tragedy, Boris Godunov, which was not published until 1831. When Pushkin was banished from St. Petersburg in May 1820 to a remote southern province, the impressions he gained there provided material for his southern cycle of romantic narrative poems, like The Prisoner of Caucasus, The Robber Brothers, and The Fountain of Bakhchisarai. While at the Lyceum, he began his first completed major work, the romantic poem Ruslan and Lidumila. written in the style of the narrative poems of Ludovic Ariosto and Voltaire, with an old Russian setting and making use of Russian folklore. In 1824, he published The Gypsies, begun earlier as part of the Southern Cycle. At Nikolskoye, too, he wrote the provisional chapters of Yevgeny Onegin, the poem Graf Nulin, based on the life of the rural gentry, and finally, one of his major works, the historical tragedy Boris Godunov. Pushkin saw, however, that without the support of the people, the struggle against autocracy was doomed. In the Bronze Horseman, Pushkin poses the problem of the little man whose happiness is destroyed by the great leader in pursuit of ambition. He does this by telling a story of St. Petersburg, set against the background of the flood of 1824, when the river took its revenge against Peter's once achievement in building the city. The poem describes how the little hero, Yevgeny, driven mad by the drowning of his sweetheart, wanders through the streets. Seeing the bronze statue of Peter I seated on a rearing horse and realizing that the Tsar, seen triumphing over the waves, is the cause of his grief. Yevgeny threatened him, and in a climax of growing horror, is pursued through the streets by the Bronze Horseman. The poem's descriptive and emotional powers give it an unforgettable impact and make it one of the greatest in Russian literature.
Alexander Pushkin is considered to be the founding father of the modern Russian language. Many writers recognize Pushkin's greatness. At a session of the Society of Lovers of Russian Literature in 1880, Dostoevsky delivered a lengthy speech about the poet. Speaking at the opening of a monument to Pushkin in Moscow, Ivan Turgenev, the author of the famous novel Fathers and Sons, said, "The very essence, all the features of his poetry chime with the features and essence of our people."